Hey there, and welcome back to the craft room. We're going to be doing two cards in this video, so it's going to be a little bit longer. Strap in and grab a coffee, and so you can watch along. This one here is the first card we're going to make, and this uses the Shop the Town stamp set. Now, this little stamp set just stands alone in the mini catalogue, but you can pair it or match it with the Let's Go Shopping dies. So the dies from the Let's Go Shopping dies will cut the top of the building and the bottom of the building there. So that's really all it will cut. So whether you decide to use the dies or not, I'm thinking it's just easy enough to fussy cut. It's just straight lines. There's nothing too fussy about that at all. But if you like the dies, you can pair that with them, no worries at all. So we're going to be using the building, as you can see here. Building the Christmas tree, which I think is one of the coolest Christmas trees we have this season. Our little carolers, as well as the presents also. So we're going to be using a fair few of the stamps from the stamp set this time round. We're also using our deckled circles. So one of the larger deckled circles there that you can see, I've used that's the distressed gold specialty paper from the annual catalogue. So that one's an annual catalogue item that's available all year round, but it looks lovely against the starry sky and with the buildings and the people in the foreground. And we're also using the deckled rectangles for our sentiment there. Plus, we're also featuring for the first time this session the adhesive-backed trinket stars. So there we are. Okay, so let's get started. We might as well make this one up. Okay, so this is a square card, and the reason I made it a square card is because I wanted to use the largest deckled circle that I could possibly get onto a square card. So just to give it that huge, it's almost like there's a huge full moon coming up behind our scene there, which I really, really like. We are using the designer series paper. Now, if you are doing the kit, you're doing the live version of the launch, you recognise this paper as for what you got in your kit. It's and I've forgotten the name of it already. So many things in my head, cannot remember everything. The Shining Brightly designer series paper. So that's the star one there. So we'll use that. So we'll bring out everything. That's there, that's our scrap. So we've got our card base. Now this one makes a 5 by 5 inch card base. Now, as I say, look at the PDF for your metric measurements and for all the measurements for all the cards. I won't go too much into it here. We'll just show how to make the card. Colours went funny then. So 5 by 5, which means basically it's 10 inches by 5 inches and scored in the middle. So we're going to make this what you'd call a landscape card, I suppose, with the score on the right-hand side. Then you've got, sorry, I got distracted. Somebody keeps trying to ring me while I'm doing this. We've got a layer of Very Vanilla, and that's a 1/4 inch smaller all around. So that would be 4 3/4 square. And then we've got a layer of our very, very pretty starry Night of Navy background designer series paper, and that's an 1/8 inch smaller. So that would be 4 5/8. Now, in place of, or in addition to, I thought maybe this is a different designer series paper from the annual mini catalogue. Sorry, that person's really distracted me now, which I thought I could use for the background. But when I put it there like that, I really thought I preferred the distressed gold. So this is from another specialty paper from the annual catalogue, which will feature a bit later on, but I think I still prefer the distressed gold. I'll pop that one aside. I'm sure I'll use it for something else. And then we've got another square of Very Vanilla that we're going to pop inside, which I might do that straight away. just to get it out of the way. Okay, so we'll layer these up. These are just going to be straight glued to our card base. Burnish that first. Ooh. A layer of very vanilla for the outside. And our layer of designer series paper. I'm not really sure that there's an up and a down for this paper. Sometimes I look at it and think, yes, that's definitely the right way up. And then I look at it and go, no, hang on, that's the right way up. So I think that's very deliberate on Stampin' Up's end, that they have it so it can go either way. You see some stars that are longer that way, and then there's others that are longer that way. So, yeah, I don't think it really matters unless somebody tells me otherwise. Okay, so there we are. What we're going to do now is just add our circle that's going to be glued straight onto as well, just into the centre of that card base. So now we make the decision which way we want it to go. So we'll just pop it there. Okay, so that's all glued on. So that's our card base. So now we can start with our pretty little images. I've got a scrap of white here, quite a big scrap, because I've got a fair bit of colouring and stamping and colouring to happen here. Probably, we'll see how we go for time. We'll see. I'm sure we'll be fine. Okay, so we want the top and the bottom of the building. We want the Christmas tree, a couple of presents, and the carolers. Grab my foam mat and my black ink. So whereas the shop Let's Go Shopping bundle is actually themed around shops. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like a little cafe. You can pop different things behind the window. You can make it a bakery or a cafe or a bookshop, depending on what you put behind the window. This one it's a little house, which I think is cute, because we all like to be home for Christmas if we can. Whatever home means to us all. So this is the top and the bottom, and they're in two separate pieces because you can sort of set one up away from the other one so it looks a little bit 3D, which is what we're going to do here. We want our Christmas tree. You could be watching this and go, gee, I hope she's not going to have to colour in all these. I hope she's got some pre-coloured ones behind the scenes. And I'm afraid to say I haven't. I'm not sure that I meant, maybe I meant to and I just didn't get around to it, but we'll see. Need a couple of little presents. I'm going to fussy cut these again, so it doesn't matter where on the sheet they go. Now, I do need to put, before I go any further, pop the little, they've got a little wreath, a little Christmas wreath there, and I want to pop that on the door of our building before I start colouring. There we are. And what else have we got? Our carolers. I think that's it. Okay. Now let's get started. Now I tend to not go too crazy. There's lots of things happening in these images, but I tend to not go too crazy with the colours. I like to keep 5 or 6 of the same colours and make that it. So the main colours I'm going to use for our these images here, the tree and the carolers and the presents, are the light and dark shaded spruce, the real red, the yellow, the daffodil delight, and the blue is blueberry bushel. So I think that's all the colours I'm using for the tree, the carolers and the presents. So just combinations of those. So let's get colouring. So the tree is going to be, now this tree, if you're somewhere that snows at Christmas time, which generally in Australia we are not, you can leave parts of it white, and I'll show you in a second. I'm not doing that because we don't often, although here in Tassie we've been known to get snow at Christmas time. So I'm going to go where you might leave it white to represent snow. I'm going to just put a lighter shaded spruce. And you can see already where I'm talking about, this little bit here. You probably can't because it's so far away. This little bit at the top there's a layer here. Sort of there's little outreaches that I think are meant to be snow. Sort of sitting on the branches like it does. This is our, as I mentioned, our dark shaded spruce blend. Now, I'm not going to go too fancy schmancy with my colouring. It's just going to be basic between the lines. But for this anyway, I'll do a couple of little tricks when we come to our house. But this is just plain old block colouring. I'm pretty rough at that. I would be a lot more careful if I didn't have you guys watching. Now the baubles are just going to be a combination of real red and daffodil delight. That's a bit weird. What does that do? That one goes there. This must be all green. Okay, nearly there with our shaded spruce dark. Yeah, I'll just bring that closer so you can see. So there, you can see here where the white bits are. That's what you would leave white if you wanted to have it. This is a snowy tree. As I say, I'm not going to have it as a snowy tree. I'm going to keep colouring. And that is my light shaded spruce. You could use, if you did want to make it a snowy tree, you could use the really nice, we've had them in previous years, you may still have it, sort of the nice snow effects specialty products that we've had in previous years that actually give it a 3D snowy effect. That would be perfect here. I don't think we've got any of those in the current mini catalogue. Haven't had that closer look. So I find them personally difficult to work with because I'm a messy person. There we go. So that's the tree itself done. So we'll do some baubles. So there's actually, if you look close enough at this image, there's two sorts of baubles. There's some that are sort of like a little elongated, squarish design, and there's some that are just pure circles. So I'm doing all the elongated ones in red, and I'm going to do all the round ones in yellow. That's me. That's just preference. My preference. You wouldn't have to do that. Just saves me having to think. And of course, our little star, I'll make that yellow as well. Okay, so that's our Christmas tree coloured. It didn't take too long. Okay, so our little carolers. I'm going to use the same few colours. We're not going to go too far from that. I'm just going to colour their clothes in different combinations of that. So if we start with our red, our little gentleman at the back has got a red jumper. As I say, personal preference, guys. Don't feel that you have to follow my colour recommendations at all. And I'm going to give the little boy, girl, child some red pants. I think that's it. Oh, and he has a little red hat. Then bring in the green. So this is the dark shaded spruce. Give the lady a green belt and the child a green jumper. Now they're getting pretty fine here with the detail, so yeah, not worrying too much. What else? No. Now, when I fussy cut this, no, I'll come back to that in a second. That's just going to confuse things. That's it on the green. Then yellow. So the lady is going to have a yellow dress. And I think I gave the child yellow earmuffs. Bring in the blue trousers for our man. If you look too closely, he's only got one leg. Poor guy, he hasn't got a second leg to stand on, so that's okay. And blue shoes for the child. And then I was going to bring in some browns, so we'll use, what's this, a dark copper clay, because that's what I've got out for our building for the lady's hair. And her boots, as well as the one shoe for the man. And then light, oh, she's missed a piece of her hair. I'll just give them some little coloured faces. And she was got some that same colour. And this one is wild wheat. No, missed a piece of her hair there. And for the little carol books there, holding, I'll use the dark wild wheat. Okay, so that's our little group of carolers there. I'm going to fussy cut those as well. Let's do the presents. same colours, not getting too crazy with our colours. This is our blueberry bushel. So they've got this striped present. I'll just give it blue stripes. What else is there? And blue stripes on the other one, because we've got two lots of presents here. And then one will have yellow stripes in between. And then some more yellow there. And yellow there. Bringing our red. Other one's going to have red stripes. And bringing out light shaded spruce. Yeah, so that's two lots of presents there. Basically the same configuration of presents, but we've just coloured them a bit differently, so at least they'll look a wee bit different. Okay, now what might be the fun part of our colouring? So we're going to bring in light and dark copper clay, light and dark wild wheat. Plus, we're going to use, just to add a little bit of interest, we're going to use our colour lifter. So you'll see what I'm going to do with the colour lifter very soon. The colour lifter just the colouring and gives it a little bit more interest. And we also need to use our shaded spruce, our red and our yellow for the little decorations around the house. So let's get started. So with our light and dark copper clay, I'm going to do most of the house. So this is a brick house, so obviously the bricks are going to be lots of different shades of brown. Now, I put intermittent light and dark copper clay on this part of this house, and you really can't tell. They're very similar colours. So for ease and quickness this time, I'm just going to make them all dark copper clay. I just can't tell the difference, so let's just go with one. There we go. And then we're going to start colouring our bricks. So we'll just do the edges in dark copper clay as well. And the edges around our door. Okay, what else are we going to do? And then we're going to start colouring our individual bricks. So I'm just going to, every now and then, change the brick. So we'll have dark copper clay, sort of like they've used a sort of a different coloured bricks in the mix. Now we don't, unless it's around these areas where the little pot window box is, you don't have to be too careful, and you'll see why in a minute. Oh, I've gone over there. Oh, that's all right. The whole window edging will be copper clay as well. Looks a bit weird at the minute, I give you that. but bear with me. Okay. Then we'll bring in a bit more of the light, though I said it didn't make much difference. You can sort of tell. And then we've got a few left over, just a few, and they're going to be the dark wild wheat. Once we get there. There we are. So we've just got a few left over now. So if we bring in our dark wild wheat, we get a really nice little contrast of all our bricks. As I say, it looks like they've got their bricks from a brickyard with lots of different colours. But we've not finished yet. Not finished yet. We're going to bring in our colour lifter. And our colour lifter, we're going to just randomly pop some colour lifter around. Not too much. Don't want to overdo it. Just to really wash out some of the bricks and give them a real contrast. Now you can go over it a few times and really make it stand out, or you can just go over once, which is what I'm going to do. There we are. That looks really good, I think. Just different colours of the bricks, and then some are actually washed out and a bit pale as well. Really nice. We'll keep doing with our buildings. So we're going to do the top story now. And that is mostly, just looking at what I've done, mostly the dark copper clay, right round to our window sashes. That's the word I was looking for. And the eaves. Okay, nearly there. Okay, that's that. So we'll bring in our, oh no, I was going to do in there as well. We'll bring in our light copper clay just for that little edging there. And our dark wild wheat, so that top bit there. Okay, I'm going to bring in the colour lifter again and just pop it in that little centre there. It looks like it's used to be, like it's just a building detail, but if we rough it up a bit, it looks like it's sort of worn a bit. Just ties it in with the bottom of the building a bit better. Okay, so windows. Our windows are shining with lots of Christmas happiness and warmth and all that stuff. So we'll do some yellow behind there. All the lights are on. My dad would be saying, turn the lights off. Not made of money. But this one, there are lots of lights on. And here in the bottom window as well. Okay, so yellow. You want some yellow baubles in our little wreath here on the door. We'll just do those real quick. There we are. And what else is there? Oh, the window box. The window box is dark wild wheat. And the bushes in the window box are green. We're using our shaded spruce just to tie it in with everything else. It's got some little baubles in there as well, so we'll colour those. Assuming they're baubles. Decorated window box. We'll make those red. The red, I think there was a little bit of red in the wreath as well, red ribbon. Bring back the shaded spruce and do the rest of our wreath. And there's a fair bit of tiny weeny detail here. So if you're not into hand colouring, this might not be the card for you or the set for you, but it's really, I think it's nice. Okay, the door, we haven't done the door. Now the door is going to be, I am going to do some shading with our wild wheat. So I'll start with my dark wild wheat where the corners would be, where the shadows would fall. Inside our wreath, under our wreath, there'd be shadows there, up here. Right up against the door frame. And then the light, just to blend it in. Not a lot of blending required there. There we are. Okay, I think that's all we need to colour. So we've got our carolers, our present, our Christmas tree and our house. Now, as I say, if you wanted to use the dies, if you have the Let's Go Shopping dies, you can use those to cut out the house top and bottom. Since I'm going to be fussy cutting anyway, I might as well just keep cutting. Basically forgotten what sort of card we're making with all that colouring. Second card in this video is a fair bit quicker and a fair bit easier, she says, hoping not to talk out of turn. So we'll get through that within the hour, no worries at all, I should think. Lots of straight lines to cut here, nothing too traumatic. I am just going to leave a little bit there to just to be careful, just make sure that they overlap a wee bit. Presents. Again, lots of straight lines, lots of nice square presents, easy to wrap, easy to cut. A little bit of fiddling around this ribbon here, but nothing too out of control. I will have a play with this stamp set and see whether there's any way we can make a card without all the fussy cutting. When I first looked at it, it sort of yelled at me that these needed to be individual elements. But hopefully someone cleverer than me can work out how to make a card without fussy cutting it. And when they do, I'll bring it to you. Or if I work it out beforehand, I'll bring it to you. Be careful not to lose all our bits here. Now, the Christmas tree does have some rounded edges, obviously, but they're nice smooth curves, so it's not too bad. As I think I've mentioned in my videos before, when I fussy cut, I tend to keep the scissors pretty still and actually move the cardstock. I think nothing too unusual there. I think a lot of people do. Always get rid of the excess because it just gets in the way. Trying to keep it whole. Don't see much of the bottom of the tree because it's covered up with presents and people, so you don't have to go too crazy down here. There we are. And the people. Now, this is what I was going to mention to you before. The people have gaps between their legs, obviously, because they're legs. So what I'm doing is I'm not going to bother too much fussy cutting up between the legs. I'm going to, because they're going to be up against a green background with the tree, I'm just going to bring in my shaded spruce blend and just colour in what will be the background between their legs. If that makes sense, I'll show you. So I'm just going to take it around the bottom of their feet and leave it like that. I'll show you what I mean. Bring them nice and close. See, they have white gaps between their legs, and if it would focus you'd see it better, but white gaps between their legs. I'm not going to bring my scissors up there and do that. I'm just going to grab my green because they're going to be standing up against or behind up against the Christmas tree as a backing. So I just grab my green because my Christmas tree is green and just colour it in. So it will look like they've got the Christmas tree behind them rather than having to do that fine little fussy cutting there. Okay, so let's put this thing together finally. Oh, I still have to do my sentiment. Not quite finally. Okay, the sentiment we're going to do in Night of Navy ink, and I'm going to use Christmas magic is in the air. So this is just a scrap of very vanilla cardstock. I'm going to cut that with a, have I got it here? With a deckled rectangle die. So I keep it out. No, actually, that one is a deckled rectangle. I'm just going to cut this one down because I can't find, I don't think I've got my deckled rectangles out. So we'll just go with a straight cut rectangle. Where's my trimmer? Trimmer's usually there. I'll use my little guillotine. So I'll cut it to size, but with the straight edges. So I don't want to cover over too much of our pretty scene with our sentiment. So I'm going to cut the sentiment box pretty much to size without too much excess. There we are. So just a little rectangle with Christmas magic is in the air. Okay, so let's bring our card base in and find it. Getting carried away with the original card there. So that one's going to sit up there. So we're going to layer it so that our Christmas is in the air, sentiment is up on that top sort of left-hand corner, and it nuzzles under the top of the building. So these are two bits that you probably have to do simultaneously, lining them up. So that the bottom of the house is going to line up pretty much with the bottom of our deckled circle in gold. So pop that straight and then bring in the top of the house. So it just sits behind it a little bit, and then bring your sentiment in and position that in position just behind the top of the house, if that makes sense. So you see there, I've got the house in the bottom, the top of the house, and then the sentiment will nuzzle just in behind that. So this part of the house, the bottom, I'm going to put that on dimensionals. So I really want to pop and that's going to be glued. So I really want to pop that and the sentiment on first in the right spot. And I'll bring back the house because I'm not going to remember where the right spot is. There. There. Okay, and then before that glues down, it's moved. Not too much. It's okay. I hope I'm talking loud enough. I know I've actually started to mumble as I'm concentrating. Hopefully you're hearing me. I won't have to re-record. That would be horrible. So bring in our sentiment there, just tucked in under the edge of that building. You can do that while our glue is, before it sets off, you can pop that in there. So that's it. And this one, I'm going to pop on some dimensionals just to give it the look of being a sort of a front-facing, sort of slightly popping out building. Yeah. Isn't that cute? I love it so much. Let's bring in our people and our tree. So our tree is going to sit behind everything. So here on the right, just so, and if you see there, that little star just goes a little bit over our sentiment box. So you fit it up a little bit because, as I say, the bottom's going to be covered with presents and people. So just put that slightly higher than you probably would. just so that little star sits on your sentiment box a bit. There we are. Cute. And then we can start bringing in presents. So presents, one lot of presents actually glued to the tree or onto the base. And then our carolers on dimensionals. So they look like they're sitting forward or sitting up or standing in front of the tree, like way in front. And then our second lot of presents, yes, are going to be sitting there in the foreground as well. So just in front of the house and just in front of the carolers. There we are. So I need to dimension them as well. There we are. How cute is that? It's a whole scene on a card. Fair bit to do with this card. Probably, as I sometimes call cards, they would be sometimes cards or very special cards. And I think this one qualifies without too much argument. It qualifies as a sometimes card. So we've got our beautiful adhesive-backed star trinkets. And I think, well, if there's any card that's appropriate, that'd be this one. So I'm going to pop some star trinkets around as well. Just over here, not too far apart, just cluttered, sort of clustered around that sentiment there. Okay, so that one's done. That was a bit of a marathon effort, 47 minutes. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I hope you really enjoyed that one. It's quite a highlight of today, I think, is that card. Really, really, really pretty. But we need to move on quickly. Okay, so I'm not going to be my gentle cleaning up person. We're just pushing everything aside. I may live to regret that, and we'll bring in the next one. The next card has some wonderful, looks like it's very, 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 very extravagant, but really it is so, so simple, and hopefully you'll love it just as much as I do. Okay, a nice little square card again. Seem to be done a few square cards in this display, in this party this time. So again, cherry cobbler. 'Tis the season to use lots of cherry cobbler. Gold foil, also the season to use lots of gold foil. And this paper is, and I've popped it down on the floor and not pulled it over. This paper is one of our specialty designer series paper. It is the Joyful 12 by 12. So it has 8 sheets, 2 each of 4 designs. The little notes there that we're using on this card. There, the little score, music score. You also have a green check, which is that one there. The wood grain one, which is the one I was going to use as the background, but I decided not to, so I used the distressed instead. And the last one, I can't remember, so notes. Oh, there's a little white background with gold leaves and berries, so a holly on white background. So that's what we're going to use. So I have a card base. This is slightly smaller. I think it's a 4.5 inch card base. But anyway, check the PDF for the instructions. I've got a layer of gold, which is 1/4 inch smaller. That's gold foil. And then our notes, which is 1/8 inch smaller again. This one uses the Christmas Classics bundle and dies. So the Christmas Classic dies are really, really cool. They have these little decorative boxes in it, which is really nice. And some really cute sentiments as well. So we're going to use the dies. And if you're anything like me, you guard your gold foil with your life, because it is precious and expensive. So because we've got a whole layer of it here, which is quite extravagant for me, I'm going to actually cut the decorative square from the gold foil. So you're not going to see it because I'm going to cover the hole with the designer series paper, but we cut it from that and we've saved using extra gold foil. Ooh, let's move that out of the way. So popping that in our cut and emboss machine. Keep it central so that you can still see the edges, because you're only going to see the edges of the gold foil, so you need to make sure you keep those clear of die cut. So don't die cut it too close to the edge. Pop that through and you have both your layer and your die cut from the same piece of gold foil. There we are. So that's our beautiful decorative square, and we've still got, as I say, we've still got our gold foil there. Oh, just bumped my mic. Sorry if that did anything. Okay, so now what we can do is layer this up. So we've got our card base, which I will. Yeah, we've actually got a panel of white that's going to go inside, so I might pop that in now. I do need to die cut a couple of other things, so I won't get rid of my die cut machine just yet. I need to find the gold. Yeah, okay. Cool. Got a couple of things to do. So that's the inside of our card there. We're going to then put our gold foil. So just popping the glue right around the edge, because that's really all we've left ourselves. And pop that on. And then we'll cover that gaping hole with our designer series paper. Make sure your notes are up the right way and cover that hole. There we are. Isn't that gorgeous? That is just so pretty and decadent almost. Be careful when you're gluing onto gold foil and other specialty papers like that with the embossing, because it is slippery, and if you take your eyes off it for 1 minute, it will slip. The glue will slip, because obviously our glue gives us that little bit of wiggle room. Sometimes it has unintended unintended consequences. Okay, so we're going to add our little die cut that we've just made from our gold foil. Just glue in the center and pop that into the center of our card. And again, make sure you keep it there for a while so it doesn't move, which I'll pop that aside for the moment. So that's our card base made. A couple more things we need to do. I've got a scrap of white here. I want to stamp from the set this little leaf, holly leaf in there, and some berries. So I need my black for my holly leaf, because I'm going to colour it with my blends. Where's my black? There we are. That one will do. And the berries themselves I'm going to stamp in cherry cobbler. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but did I mention the card base is cherry cobbler? Not real red or anything like that, it's cherry cobbler. So I'll just grab my berries. There's 3 little berries. Cherry cobbler. I need a new cherry cobbler ink pad. It's showing signs of age, this one. There we are. Just get that red ink off, because it's going to go everywhere. colouring. So I'm just going to use, I'm not too adventurous here. I'm just going to grab the shaded spruce that we used in our last card. And just colour those leaves. And because the berries were already coloured, we don't have to colour those. We're also going to cut from the stamp set, from the die set, we're going to cut this sort of square, this sort of beveled edge square, and that's what our sentiment's going to be. I'm going to use Deck the Halls. There's other ones there as well. There's Tidings, what is it? Peace on Earth, Tidings of Comfort and Joy, Season's Greetings, Christmas. So Christmas could go with any of these. Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Christmas wishes, Christmas holidays to you and yours. Anyway, any combination of sentiments you could use there, but I'm going to use Deck the Halls. Again, I'm going to use my cherry cobbler if it will allow me to. Oh, I've put Peace on Earth onto the ink pad. Okay, we're using Peace on Earth rather than Deck the Halls. That's okay. We can change. We can pivot. Okay, so there we are. Okay, so let's grab our cut and emboss machine again, making sure I don't lose anything. We need to grab the dies out. So the little berries are there and the little leaf is hopefully there too. Yes, it is. So I'll use the square around the sentiment there. And the leaves. I hope I've left enough space there between those two. Sometimes I stamp them too close together and then the dies won't fit and you have to come back for a second go. Just enough room. Okay, so we have our sentiment, our berries. So it cuts them into two separate lots, two together and then one on its own, and our leaves. We'll get rid of that. Okay, bring back our card base. Now, the little sentiment box fits perfectly in the middle there, which is good because that's what it was designed to do. I'll grab some dimensionals, pop that on dimensionals on there. And we'll just decorate that with a wee bit of holly with some berries, assuming that's what it is. Not big in Australia, especially in Hobart. There's not a lot of holly growing naturally or natively or any really. So I'll have to be guided by others as to what that actually is. So we're going to pop that on there. There we are. Isn't that nice? We'll bring in our holly. I think this card just needed something to lift, well not lift, something to take away. It was, how do I put this? It was really sort of razzle dazzle, but it needed something to bring it back to earth almost. and that's what I'm using the holly leaves for. So we'll just pop those off, coming off there. And then our leaves, our little berries, I mean, and just sit in there. Now I have to find the bling that I'm using for this because it's sitting over to my left-hand side, getting ready for another video, but I need it here. There we are. So there's our little berries sitting on our holly. If you don't like those, you could obviously leave them off. As I say, I just thought it needed something to take the, sometimes you eat, this is going to be a bizarre analogy, but sometimes you eat, like when you eat lots and lots of sugar, you crave something sour or savoury to take the sweet taste out of your mouth. It was almost with this card, there was so much bling that I needed something to ground it, something to bring it back, to take the bling taste out of my mouth. So these, I will tell you what these are now, obviously. These gold pearls that I'm using as embellishments, they are the blooming pearls, which are absolutely gorgeous. There's gold ones, obviously, which I'm using here, and I'll use the others in another card, the gold ones. There's also a green, which I think would be shaded spruce or garden green. And then there's this one here that's got a definite green, pretty peacock green to it. And then a pink one, which I think would either be bubble bath or something like that. But I'm using the gold ones on this one. I mean, what else would you use? Here we are. And that's it. So that's our second card for this video. I hope you like both of those. So we've got our totally over the top red and gold foil, and then another one which I suppose was just as much over the top but with lots of detail and colouring, and you could just really go wild and personalise that one as much as you wanted to. So hope you enjoyed those. We've had the this one, the bottom one is the Christmas Classics bundle, and then this one here we've used the Shop the Town stamp set with lots of other things as well. So check the PDF for all the products that are in these, for all the measurements. We'll have a bit of a break and we'll come back with some more very soon.